you so much for having me. And this is kind of an exciting time. And we're came off yesterday from the first day of our ICC conference, and with the 8.1 release, we're really excited to bring that to the market. The theme for our conference was Envision, and really I can't think of a better theme when looking at the power of perspective to really envision a more innovative future that we can do right now. Perspective brings so many powerful features to the table, and today I really want to bring a lot of that and show you what's possible, and give you a couple demonstrations of perspective as well. And we're going to be looking at the latest and greatest with Ignition 8.1 too. All right, so the agenda for today is I'm going to do a quick overview of inductive automation and Ignition for folks who maybe don't have a lot of that background. I'm going to talk about the timeline, about visualization and Ignition, so we can see what we had at the beginning and to where we are today, the progression of where we've been with the visualization. We're going to look at what perspective is in more detail and go over all the features of perspective. We're going to look at the different way we can access perspective. We're going to look at how we can easily have access and control at our fingertips no matter where we are. We're going to look at mobile responsive design, theming and styling, the fact that perspective is URL friendly, and there's other features that we'll look at here as well. But we can't talk about all these amazing features and perspective and the ease of getting data to people without talking about security. Security is paramount when looking at these kind of applications. So we'll look a lot more, we're going to dive a lot more deeper into security. And I have a couple of use cases, 4 in particular, that I want to share about how people have been leveraging perspective out there. And these are projects that are that we've just showcased in our Discover Gallery in years past as well as this year. And it's just kind of really exciting to see how people take the platform that we built and make amazing applications out of it. And then lastly, we'll end up with a live demonstration. And we'll show you perspective. We'll show you the power of perspective. I'm going to do kind of 2 different things. I'm going to look at a project that I want all of you to stay connected with. So we're actually all going to kind of collaborate and look at the same system. We're going to show you the ease of development and deployment. And then I'm going to show you some of the mobile app features by showing you leveraging my phone here. So it should be a very exciting demo, and looking forward to this presentation. So let's first start with the overview of inductive automation. Our mission statement from the very beginning is to create industrial software that empowers our customers to swiftly turn great ideas into reality by removing all technological and economic obstacles. Simply put, we want to make developing SCADA HMIs easy, fun, and affordable. We want to be able to leverage all the latest and greatest technology that's out there. And we were founded by a very experienced system integrator, and he looked for products in the market off the shelf that could ultimately provide the right solution to his customers. He couldn't find them, so he decided, we got to go out and build our own system. And that's really how Ignition came out to be. So Ignition is used around the world in virtually every industry by thousands and thousands of different customers. And we have over 2,500 integrators in the program worldwide that are using and supporting Ignition. We provide very top-of-line support and training, along with the Inductive University. It's online, so you can really learn how to leverage the platform. And especially with Ignition 8.1, we continue to expand that training. So we're very passionate about what we do, and we're very energetic and forward-thinking in terms of how we can bring new technologies to the table that you can leverage. So the Ignition platform itself is kind of the culmination. It's our software product. That's what we do. We focus on the Ignition platform. And it's one universal platform for SCADA, MES, and IIoT. So you can really think of Ignition as development toolkit. It's one where you can install it and you can literally develop and deploy any kind of application you want out there. Some of the important tenets of Ignition is the licensing model. It is an unlimited licensing model. So you pay for a server license, so you get unlimited tags, screens, clients, projects, device connections, and more. It can really scale with your systems. You can continue to add on to it without having to worry about buying more from a licensing standpoint. It's also fully cross-platform, so you can leverage any operating system from Windows, Linux to Mac OS. And that is true for the server as well as for the client stations. And be able to leverage mobile devices, phones and tablets allow you to get data to even more people. And we'll be talking a lot more about that here today. But cross-platform allows you to take advantage of existing hardware and existing operating systems and not have to be locked into one. It's also very much built on IT standard technologies. I heard Lenny talk a lot about that a moment ago, and that's how all these products work together. That's a very important part of Ignition, is that we are based on IT standard technologies. That we leverage these open standards that allows for interoperability, it allows for a better security as well. It allows for you to use best-in-class products out there. We use standards like SQL databases, OPC-UA, MQTT, Active Directory, federated identity providers, HTTPS, and a lot more that make it, that allow you to really innovate with those standards. It's very much a scalable server client architecture, so install Ignition on a server, and then we can launch that client anywhere by going to a URL, going to a IP address or host name. And we'll be seeing that in the demonstration here today as well. Everything's completely web managed and web launched, very simple to get access to and to then make changes and add, to do development. And Ignition's a modular platform, so you can think of Ignition like your phone. You can go to the App Store on your phone, you can look for apps and you can add them to your phone, take advantage of technology. With Ignition, we have what's called modules you can take advantage of. So that's sort of a brief introduction of inductive automation in Ignition, but I want to give you a timeline of visualization in Ignition in particular. We're going to talk about perspective a lot more here today. But if you rewind back, if you go back to 2003, this is when we started. I was fortunate to be able to be with the company from the very beginning. And so I've been able to see all of these transitions and the evolution of the company into where we are today. And it's very exciting to see that. But if you go back to 2003, we had two legacy products back then. One was called Factory SQL, which was a bidirectional data bridge between an OPC server and a database. And we had Factory PMI, which was a plant management interface. It was the front end. It was the visualization. It would connect to that database that was in the middle of our model. Factory PMI was written in Java. It leveraged Java Swing technology for the application. So you can really think of Factory PMI as vision. Because in 2010, when we basically decided to combine our legacy products into one unified platform, we made Factory SQL the SQL Bridge module. We made Factory PMI the Vision module. And with that, the Vision module has been a very important part of Ignition and a very important part of everybody's application to be able to visualize the data. But Vision required you to have an operating system that can run Java. So, when phones and tablets became a lot more mainstream, we couldn't run Vision natively on those devices. So that's where we had to look at newer technologies. And of course, if you look at our personal lives, we're using our browsers for more and more. All web applications are out there. All the big tech companies are building these amazing applications, leveraging browsers and really leveraging HTML. And so we felt we had to do the same thing with an Ignition platform. So in 2019, or before 2019, we started kind of a 1.5 to almost 2-year venture on research and development, and to really come out with a first-class visualization system that was mobile first, that was leverage browsers, and that is Perspective. In 2019, we released Perspective. From 2019 until from then and 2020, really, this entire year, we've been making improvements to Perspective and to, of course, the Ignition platform. And so Perspective kind of been around now for about 1.5 years. And there's been a lot of improvements over that 1.5 years, a lot of maturity, a lot of optimizations, new components, and new features that we can take advantage of. And that is the same for Ignition 8.1 that we just released yesterday. It really marks the maturity of Perspective, and it has a lot of really important features, especially for doing HMIs, things like Perspective symbols, as well as the power chart. And we'll show some of that here today. But most importantly, Ignition 8.1 is an LTS release, a long-term support release that you can take advantage of. And we know it's going to be supported for 5 years. It really marks that stability and maturity of the product. So I'll kind of give you that timeline. We've had Vision for a really, really long time. For over 16 years, we've had Vision. And it's a great product. And we're not getting rid of Vision. It's going to sit the same, right in parallel with Perspective. But Perspective is the next wave. This was built from the ground up to leverage HTML5 and leverage web technologies. And this is what's going to make it a lot easier for people to get access to data. So that's what we're here to talk about today, is Ignition Perspective. And I truly am excited about this product. This product is unlike anything that's out there. And it just opens up so many opportunities and so many doors for what we can actually do and the kinds of applications that we can develop and that we can deploy. So first, let's talk about what is perspective. Well, perspective is a visualization module that is built from the ground up to leverage HTML5 and CSS. So we can simply run this anywhere. There's no plugins needed. All we need is a modern browser. Things like Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Edge, and more. Pretty much all devices these days have modern browsers that we can take advantage of. Heck, my refrigerator that now has the screen in the front has a modern browser, and I can launch a Perspective app on there. Phones and tablets, of course, have browsers, but with Perspective, we also have native apps for iOS and Android that allows us to take advantage of those phones, and we'll talk more about that here today. But it's a very familiar experience. Everything we're using in in the web world, from things like Google Drive to Microsoft Office 365 to AWS and many other services that have built these amazing applications that are delivered to a browser. And not only that, Perspective comes with a high level of security. And we're going to talk a lot more about security here today, but there's so much we can do with it. And we know that when we deploy it, there's a peace of mind that security is a major focus. So it's really important to note, though, as we progress, that Perspective was built from the ground up to leverage all the modern technologies. While we've had 16 years plus of development and vision, we didn't just basically convert vision to perspective. Whenever you kind of do that, you adapt one technology to another, you always have to make compromises. What we wanted to do is have two visualization modules in Ignition that people can choose from, but Perspective, we didn't want to be shackled down to anything. We want to be able to leverage the latest and greatest and have a very powerful product. So let's talk about the ways we can access Perspective. They call this the access modes, and sort of how a person can get access to the application that you built leveraging Perspective. The first is through a browser, and we kind of mentioned this already, but we can leverage any device with a modern browser. All it has to support is HTML5, CSS, and ES6, which is JavaScript. Again, there's a lot of options out there for different browsers that we can just work natively with. There's no plugins, no installations that are needed. And what's important here is we can actually just send somebody a secure web link, and they can, bookmark that, or they can simply just go to that URL and get access to the application. The second mode is mobile, and this is really important to leverage our phones and tablets. And we have native apps for Perspective for iOS and Android. You can go to the stores and you can get it. It's a free app, and really it's just a wrapper around a browser. So it has an embedded browser inside of it. But what's important about having an app is that we can harness the power of these mobile devices. We can leverage all the features that they can bring to the table. Things like GPS, camera, NFC, which is near field communication, accelerometer, Bluetooth energy, and more. So if we look at those in particular, a lot of great use cases for each of these features. The GPS is great for geofencing or geolocation. We can actually switch the screens automatically based on where we're located. So if I go out in the field, or if I'm at a plant and I walk around, we can have it get us to the relevant location and get that data that we need. We can also tag our location when entering data. So if somebody's entering some information, we can know where they did that from. Or we can even track, various systems by leveraging the GPS here. And we have a lot of mobile like trucks and trucking systems, things like that, or vessels where they're leveraging the GPS to be able to know where they're located. So being able to take advantage of GPS and extend that and leverage it in our application can add a lot of power to what we can do. Another good feature is accelerometer. We can take advantage of the accelerometer. The accelerometer allows us to really know device orientation, and we can see X, Y, and Z coordinates with that. And so there's some cool applications with this. If you switch your screen from portrait to landscape, you can have the application do something different, show something different. Or maybe you want them to, for safety reasons, if somebody has a phone in their hand and they happen to fall, we can track that, maybe alarm on those conditions. So we can use the accelerometer for a lot of use cases as well. The camera, and this really exciting piece that we can leverage with the phone. It could be basically taking pictures for troubleshooting. We could scan barcodes, as we're showing here in the video, where we can quickly get to an area of the application. So I'll be seeing customers put barcodes out there on the plant floor that they can go and scan and leverage and and easily get more context, more information about that machine. Or they use it for inventory control, or a lot more. I mean, there's so many applications that are possible by leveraging the camera there natively within the application. The other is near field communication, NFC. NFC is something that it's a pretty powerful technology. It was built to allow two devices to communicate with each other within a short distance. So you can do like contactless payments would be in mobile devices. Probably you've seen that with the Apple Pay and various things like that. But we can leverage NFC out there for pretty much anything we want, because they made a standard. So we see RFID sensors that are supporting NFC. We see people using it for navigation purposes, for inventory control. Again, very similar to kind of barcode. But you can, again, allow these two devices to communicate with each other and send any kind of information really through that. Another good example is mobile, with mobile devices, is Bluetooth. Be able to leverage Bluetooth low energy, and these are a lot of devices support Bluetooth low energy, and the most kind of popular ones are like iBeacon, Eddystone, where they basically have you have humidity and temperature you can read in, and you see the little video there, and how we can bring that information in, and we can leverage it and bring it into Ignition platform. But there's a lot of devices that support Bluetooth low energy that you can automatically read those values from. So it's be able to take advantage of that. So there's a lot that we can do in particular with with phones and tablets. Be able to leverage those phones and tablets. Not only just be able to see the application, but be able to leverage those sensors to extend our application. Gives us so much more power. The third access mode is something that we just introduced in Ignition 8.1 yesterday, and that is Workstation. And Workstation is a desktop application that has an embedded browser. You can think of it very much like the native iOS and Android app, except for it's targeted for Windows and Linux. As an application, having the embedded browser, it's the same perspective project, but having the application allows us to get access to the underlying OS. And we can eliminate distractions in the underlying OS, because we can run this in kiosk mode, in full screen mode. So for people who want to run perspective as an HMI on the plant floor, they don't want their operators going to a browser and accessing it. They don't want them to be able to go to a new tab or exit out of the browser. They want to be able to stay within the application and not leave that application. And that's what Workstation brings to the table. Plus, it allows for supporting multi-monitor configurations. So if I have a NOC, if I have multiple monitors, I can have one shortcut that can open up the application on all the monitors and get different information visible on each of those monitors. Along with that automatic startup, from that shortcut, we can just have it automatically go when that machine reboots out there. Plus, it provides the facility for us to access data from that host OS. So if we want to access files and parse files in that happen to sit in a particular folder, or get to serial devices or RFID or others, we can do that directly with the Workstation, whereas browsers would have some limitations. Some of it you might be able to get access to, but not everything. So having this Workstation really creates a first-class application around perspective, but still, no matter what, we're building an application and we can deliver perspective in all of these modes, directly to a browser, using the native iOS and Android apps, as well as using the Workstation product. All of these things make it really, really easy to get data to more people, and to get it, and they'll leverage and harness the power of what perspective can bring to the table. So with that being said, it's really perspective all about easy access and real control at your fingertips. And I want to kind of go into a little bit more detail here. It's, Ignition's licensing model has always been unlimited. It's always been, you install the platform, you take it, you innovate, you add more to it, you add more projects, add more devices, add more tags, and add more clients out there. Having that really doesn't, breaks down the barriers for innovation, and you can really build out the application you want. And with perspective being truly unlimited, we can get data to everyone. It doesn't matter, where they happen to be. It could be literally on the plant floor, it could be at home, especially now with the pandemic, could be remote, could be no matter where you are, you can get access to that data. Data and control can move with the user. They're not tied down in any way. Plus, we can actually build more projects to get data to different kinds of folks. So we want to get data to the business. We can provide important KPIs to particular parties that are interested in information. We can display information publicly if you wanted to. There's a lot of ways of being able to leverage this and get data to people. We can deploy lots of the concurrent runtimes, and it's really scalable, and we can actually have a lot of front-end servers behind load balancers if we want to have thousands and thousands of people getting access to this data concurrently. And with that, not only that, we can push out new changes rapidly. So if I'm in a developer environment, I want to add a new project, I want to add some new features, I can do that quickly, I can press save, and I can have a peace of mind that I can have hundreds of people who are looking at it automatically get those updates, get those new projects, along with being able to get faster data updates. Perspective is a poll-free technology. Everything's pushed to the browser. It makes it very and to do control. So having data available, being able to get it to more people, it really leads to more accountability, faster response times, and people staying connected to their process. Now, control is a big part, being able to see the process as well as control the process. And you want to do that really with ease, at your fingertips with the swipe, essentially. So not only is control possible with Perspective, where we can write back and change set points, turn machines on or off, but it's very touch friendly. So for leveraging phones and tablets, we can use mobile gestures like swiping and pinching, tapping, dragging, and more to be able to interact with the system. It was built, from the ground up to leverage all of these technologies. So we're going to show more access in a bit. You can really see the power of the access. But with Perspective, one thing that I want to talk about is mobile responsive design, because it brings this amazing feature to the forefront. If you look at especially with our vision product we've had for a long time, a lot of HMIs, typically they're built for that, PC that's on the plant floor. And if I were to leverage somebody's computer, it might be a different resolution. If I was leveraging a phone or a tablet, of course, that's a different resolution. And you don't want to have to build separate applications for each of those devices. You want to have one application that adapts, that optimizes for the display that it's on. And that is what mobile responsive design is. And that's what Perspective has built in with the different container types that we have. There's a lot of flexible containers that have different layout strategies for mobile responsive design. It's very, very easy to develop. In fact, Perspective is very easy to develop. The Open Designer is very intuitive. You don't need to know anything about HTML, CSS, or JavaScript. You just simply go in there and drag and drop and build out your application. And that's true also for mobile responsive design. You can build it to automatically adapt to screens of any size. And so you saw a little example here, but you might have an HMI screen that's when it's large, it's an HMI, it's a PNID. When it gets to a mobile device, it might not scale that down, it might just show that data in a different way. Or very similarly, if I look at a table, I might see a table with multiple columns on a browser, on a PC, but if I'm on a phone, I want to see that in a card layout. So very vertical, I can swipe and scroll through all that data. So it's very easy to develop this way within Perspective. Now, Perspective also brings theming and styling to the table. So not only is from a UI UX standpoint is the mobile responsive design important, so that we can optimize it and really think about the people's experience from where they're leveraging the application. But we also want this application to look really, really good and to look like a modern application. And theming and styling make that happen. With Ignition, we provide quite a few default themes that come with it. We ship it with light and dark themes, and there's some variations of those themes that you can switch. And I'll show the theming in action in a bit. But what you could do is actually create your own themes. You can work with UI UX experts, and they can build kind of a standard look and feel for the entire application. You do it in one place, and all your systems take advantage of it. You also have styling, where you can put on individual components within the system. You can kind of think of that as a CSS class. It's based on that, but you don't have to know anything really about CSS to apply styles. And it allows you to really customize that look and feel and make it look the way you want. And you probably have seen, if anybody's ever done, with the desktop applications like Vision as an example, and you went to UI expert and they kind of design what they want it to look like, it can be very hard to adapt that to a desktop application environment. But with Perspective, because it's built for the web and leveraging HTML5 and CSS, it is really easy for us to adapt that and make it look the way that we want. Really have it look first class. And not only that, this whole system allows us to do animation really, really nicely. CSS has animation. We can bring the animation to a table, so we can have things that are changing colors and blinking or that are transitioning very, very easily by leveraging the theming and the styling. So we'll show an example of this in the demo. I think it's going to make it a lot more easier to see. Not only that, Perspective is URL friendly. URL friendly means that we can simply put a URL into our browser to access our project, and it can be a secure URL. And that's really important. You see in the picture there, HTTPS, and that green check or that lock that's on there. When you log into your bank application or any other web application, if you're going to enter in data, especially your credit card information, you want to make sure that site is secure, and you look for that in your browser. And browsers do a really good job of telling you when things are not secure. Well, with Perspective, we just leverage that. It's all tried and true standards that we can take advantage of. And we can just give somebody a URL to get to the system, or they can scan a barcode, or QR code to get access to it. You can have a bookmark that lets us get back to the application very easily. And not only that, we can leverage the URL. We can actually pass parameters into URLs as well to get to different parts of the system. So you don't necessarily have to go to even do navigation. You can have navigation in Perspective, but you can also just go and change URL to get to a different place in the system. So having that just makes it very, very easy to work with. Just like you're accessing any other website, you can do the same thing for parts of, to get directly to a part of Perspective. So we mentioned a little bit about security there, leveraging HTTPS, within a browser and having that trust within that. But security is paramount when we try to get access to more, get data out to more people and get access in more ways. We've got to think about security because we have to be able to lock down the system. We don't want to expose any issues. Perspective was built from the ground up to support industry-leading encryption protocols and security standards. And it's compatible with a lot of federated identity providers. And I'll talk more about that. But providers that can support two-factor authentication to verify a user's identity. It has a very strong, robust permissions model, lets us secure our applications with ease in terms of things like locking it down based on security levels, so what roles or zones somebody happens to have. Along with that, we do a lot of auditing in the system so we can see who's logging in to what they're doing in the application. So we've had a lot of years of experience with Vision and with Ignition, and we're really committed to security. And with Perspective, we were able to build that from the ground up with modern cybersecurity in mind. And I think that's really a really important part of it. If you look at this graphic here, I'm not going to go into detail the graphic, but it kind of shows why Perspective is quite secure. When you access the application in your browser, you simply go into that URL, and again, you see that HTTPS, that green check. We know it's trusted. We know the connection to the server is encrypted. So it's going over a secure tunnel. That's what this TLS here represents. That means that there's nobody who can sit in the middle that can actually see what's going on or inject something into the system. But not only that, we don't sync very much between the server and the browser. We sync very, very little. So all the important things that you're trying to access in your application, data from PLCs or databases or other systems, all that is behind a big firewall. And there's a lot of access permissions that are there so that when somebody logs into the system, we can verify their identity and we know what roles and zones they have. So we know that we can lock things down based on those roles and zones so they couldn't get access to things that you don't want them to. And there's no way for anybody to circumvent that. They can't get to the data without going through that firewall on the server. So it's very important that security was built this way so that you have that peace of mind. When you access it, you know it's using latest and greatest. Now, I talked about identity providers. Identity providers are quite important. They allow us to centralize identity management. And there's a lot of products out there that you probably already maybe use, things like Ping Federate or Ping ID, Okta, Duo, ADFS, Facebook and Google Federation. So you probably have logged into other websites using your Facebook credentials or logged in using your Google credentials. That's federated identity. And it's allows us to have one centralized identity management. IT uses this as a critical part of their cybersecurity strategy to use these modern protocols infrastructure for identity. And in particular, you can use any identity management that uses SAML or OpenID Connect. Those are the protocols that are being used. But these systems, not only are they easy to use, but they provide extra layers of protection through two-factor authentication. So that second form, when I send a push notification to a phone, they have to approve, or if I have to enter in a key or a code that was given to me in the app on that thing, or they send a text message with the code, all of those are providing extra layers of protection. And we probably use that with all the personal things. If you have like, Nest or Ring or you're accessing any kind of, account these days, typically they have that second layer, the second form that they want you to use. And we can use that same tried and true systems with Ignition. And we can use it for all of Ignition, from not just perspective, but our designer, our gateway interface, as well as vision can use identity providers. So this is something that's supported by IT, and they really like to see this. And when they see a perspective with this technology, they know, oh man, we can secure easily, and they'll bring into their infrastructure and allow data remotely. It'll be something that is just super simple. And when the pandemic hit and people had to be remote, have VPN connections set up and all of that, a lot of customers put perspective in place, tied to their identity management, build out screens to display data, and IT easily got that information to people. I did want to point out that we do have a security hardening guide that provides best practices on how to secure Ignition, from anything like enabling HTTPS and SSL to setting up authorization, enable auditing, and locking down Ignition and the operating system. So you can go and check that out on our website. All right, so before I go to demo, I want to show 4 quick use cases of people leveraging perspective. And I think these are really great stories of how you can take advantage of the technology. The first is a project done by ESM Australia. The team developed a scalable asset management system to monitor performance and meet service requirements for a client with systems deployed all over Australia. Using a mix of MQTT and technologies at the edge, and of course, leveraging the cloud with perspective for the visualization, they harness this power to be able to let customers see data no matter where they are, and let them add, remove, and manage connected assets without even having to open a designer. So perspective in particular allowed anybody to get access no matter where they were, and they used the leverage the map component, so really visualize the status of each asset's location in close to real time. And the geolocation feature that we talked about was used to track the position of fleet vehicles. So again, they deploy this to the cloud to make it really simple to get access to. By doing this, ESM estimates that the client's number of miles driven to service sites decreased by 40%, directly translating to savings in fuel, labor, and vehicle costs. Not only that, operators, dispatchers, and maintenance teams have absolute real-time visibility of fixed and mobile assets. And it's just that kind of power, that kind of shift of thinking, oh man, I can get data no matter where I am. How does that change my business? The second use case here is Streamline Innovations. They operate natural gas treating units in South and West Texas that convert hydrogen sulfide into fertilizer-grade sulfur. Hydrogen sulfide is an extremely toxic, explosive chemical found in most natural gas. So they used Ignition to facilitate the automation of 3 semi-autonomous mid-sized units, 1 large-scale gas treatment facility, and several fully autonomous skids, all with full remote bidirectional control and historian data collection. So for the small units that they had, they deployed a kind of a classic hub and spoke. They put an edge device out there with MQTT, delivering the data to the cloud. And in the cloud, they had perspective to be able to visualize the data no matter where they were. And they were able to add things in that were pretty cool. From the visualization system, they had complex calculations like fast Fourier transforms on pump vibration and weather forecasts that they downloaded from National Weather Service that they brought in together to really determine optimal operating temperatures. For the larger units, they actually put perspective at the site locally. And that allowed them to eliminate having dedicated HMIs out there, as any computer or tablet can access perspective to function as that HMI. So just changed kind of the way they did it. In fact, they used iPads for that visualization locally. Not only that, but anybody can get data around the world. The third one here is San Bernardino County in Southern California. They were looking for its next generation visualization and control system for its landfills. They teamed up with some integration companies, SCS and Corso Systems, to really provide these major upgrades, and they wanted to leverage Ignition and perspective for that next generation visualization. And they actually wanted to bring in things like 3D imaging from drones and virtual reality. So perspective played a major role here in achieving buy-in and successfully launching the product. The mandate was clear. They had to use a flexible architecture that allows visualization natively in HTML5. Not only did Perspective allow them to take advantage of all the normal components of a typical system, it also allowed them to embed Pix4D maps inside the web project. They used aerial data to compose topographic mapping, 2D imaging, 3D renderings, GIS thermal, near-infrared, and methane leak detection for various waste facilities. And they put all of that into Perspective, and not only that, they were able to leverage Microsoft HoloLens VR headsets so they can basically walk the sites from their offices. So pretty innovative stuff that they're doing with this project. You know, here the landfill operators and executives can view the site remotely from any device, anywhere, and the IT people are really happy because they don't have to worry about applications that are proprietary or having to install things. It's just they know how to secure it, they know how to work with it. It's just like any other application. And not only that, it allowed for necessary internal and regulatory reports to be completed automatically. The last one here is from Waste Management. They desire to better serve their communities and environment in which they operate in while improving the quality of life for their landfill employees. So to do this, they partner with integration firm SCS Engineers and Vertec to implement an Ignition 8 Perspective SCADA system. The design has now is the standard for all of their SCADA at all their landfills and facilities. What they did is they implemented the Ignition Perspective SCADA system with goals of improving environmental protection, reducing operation, maintenance costs, and improving the quality of life for their landfills, as I said before there. So now managers have a live view of site activities. Operators know when there are problems and they can remotely act to resolve these problems, thus increasing efficiency. You know, the ability to monitor their compliance obligations in near real time provides their staff the capability to adjust to changing conditions on the ground within a long-range work capacity model. The model has shown significant value during challenging times and sets a tone for discussions on the future of landfill operations. So the fact that they don't have to go out at the site and get into those harsh conditions to see the information, see that data, change the way that they interact with the system and how they can stay connected. Those are four really good use cases of Perspective, but nothing better than to show a live demo of Perspective so you guys can see this in action. And I want you to follow along with me on this as well. We're gonna do a couple of things with this. I'm going to launch the application just like you can too. Again, we talked about how Perspective is easy to get access to. You open your browser and you go to a URL. So if you all can do that, you can go to your browser and type in the URL there, or if you want to scan the barcode from your phone, you can get to the application. And this application is I've hosted in the cloud. So it's running in Amazon EC2 and just Ignition up there with Perspective, and we have a project that's up ready to go that we can see. So again, if you go to that URL, secure.ia.io, and I'm going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to go to my browser, go to a new tab, and go to secure.ia.io. And we're actually going to see people who are launching the application at the moment, right? Right now, there's 16 sessions that are running. And so this is a live system, a live application. And I will have you guys, you can kind of go around to other applications. But before we go into that, let's keep it all on this home screen here, where we can just see the number of sessions that are happening. Because what I want to show you is really the important development to deployment model that Perspective brings to the table. So I'm actually going to open up my designer here. And I have that same screen. As you can see, there's 29 sessions, 29 people that have the application open right now. Just that easy to get access to the data. And you'll mention, if you look in your browser, you see that lock up there, the HTTPS. It's secure getting to this application. So let's make it some change. Let's add some new stuff to the screen so we can build a little screen out and get that to you guys so you can see data. So let's take this ambient humidity. Let's bring it on the screen as a LED display. Let's bring this ambient temperature over here as an LED display. Let's bring this day tank over here as a vessel. And this is a brand new smart symbol for Ignition 8.1. That's really exciting to see these new new Perspective symbols. We can also, maybe I want to bring that over here. I want to bring it as a gauge as well. And these are some real time. Maybe I want to do some control. I want to take some tags and drag them over here as control, like a toggle switch. Or maybe I want a slider that we can all interact with to change the value. Maybe I'll put a multi-state button over here so I can change the state of a machine. So let's go over here and put that on. And I'll link that to a tag. So I'll do the control indicator value of that, and I'll bind that bidirectionally so we can do control. So I'm just drag and dropping, building out HMI screen here and leveraging these different tags. Let's go over here to our motors. Let's also take a motor here and let's put a motor on the screen. And I'll use, again, one of our new smart symbols for that. And with the state of that too, I'll put another control. So we'll do it over here. And we'll basically link this HOA control to that so we can see that change. I'll make that bidirectional. So we did a number of things that we added to the screen. Everybody has the client open right now, and they're seeing this application that is perspective. And when I press save in the designer, we're going to push that change out to the server, and it's going to automatically send it to all of you who is looking at the data. So it'd be that quick and easy to get access. So here we go. Let's save it. And it's pushed out. Now you guys can see that change, that application. And feel free, change some values here. You'll see it change on my screen. You'll see it on your screen changing. As we're interacting with the system, we're gonna see this interaction that's there. Now, right now, this application is open to the public in that it's secure in terms of HTTPS, but we didn't force anybody to log in with the system. I'll show you in a moment how we could make somebody log into the system there, so that they just nobody just has blanket access. Typically, you want to lock that down further. But Perspective has this a public mode because sometimes people embed a project inside of their website to show data, and they don't want people logging in, or they put it on a smart TV and they want people to be able to see it without logging in. So we can kind of do the best of both worlds here. Get data to people very easily. We can also very much lock these systems down. So this application's very exciting application. Here, there's a lot of cool things that are part of it. So not only can we play around with those controls we put on the screen there, it's pretty fun to change that. You're seeing that change in real time. There's really powerful components within Perspective. And with Ignition 8.1 brought some new components to the table. And in particular, yesterday we released this version with this new power chart, and this one here, where basically I can have a lot of tags that are logging historically. And so here I got a bunch of different tags. I'll add realistic 0, add that day tank, and basically, as you can see here, I can add this flow. All these things are being logged, and I can easily add this to. Let me make it a little bigger here. Whoops. There we go. So I can easily see all the tags that have been added, and I can see for that range too. Right now, I'm looking at the last 8 hours. I can switch that. Maybe I want to look at the last 2 hours, apply that, see a smaller subset of data. And I can see then what the current value of that is, what the minimum, maximum, average, I can actually go in and change it. I can change names of these things in the runtime. I can give it different plots. I can give it different display. If I want to do like an area rendering instead, I can do an area rendering. We can display this data in different ways, and we'll look at it, whether it's the past 2 hours, whether they go back to some historical range. But I can also then apply an X-trace. So I can actually put some X-traces out there and see what these values are at different times, and even see where the current X-trace is, where we're hovering. We can go and clear those X-traces. We can also do brush ranges, where I can select multiple ranges. And with that, I can see down here all these statistics about that range. I can see what the first value, last value, average, minimum, maximum, medium, delta, sum, upper control limit, lower control limit, standard deviation are for those ranges of those tags that we have selected. So we can get real quick data within this power chart to see the information that's there. We can also provide annotations. So let's say that I wanted to provide a note right here. Here is a cool note. I can add this note that we can basically store off there, and I can see notes back in time on information. Maybe we want to add more data to that trend. And so not only that, we can make this full screen, really see just the chart there. We can go and apply all the configuration, go to the settings. We can change axes, pens. We can change plots. We can add columns, show or hide columns, especially for the statistics that's there. We can really go a lot further and make it very easy. Not only that, this is built mobile responsive. So if I was on a phone, let's simulate this by going to a iPhone here. Basically on a phone, you can see that I get I get all the same pens here. I can scroll through the different pens. It's like I said, everything's mobile responsive. These controls down here, they change location, and I can go and do the settings. I can export data. I can print it. All that very, very easily. So that's a really cool, powerful trending component that Perspective brings to the table, along with other really great components. So you saw some of those smart symbols that or perspective symbols that I was showing a minute ago. But not only that, from a mobile responsive standpoint, there's all sorts of different ways that we can do mobile responsive design. From using the coordinate container, and this is one where I'll actually go now switch it to responsive, where I can have screens that are fixed. So it just gives me scroll bars, so if I go up here, I can get scroll bars to go through it. Or of course it can be percentage based. So let's go make it a little bit smaller. And let's go percentage based, where if I do make it smaller, things will scale for me automatically. So you may or may not want that. You can do scaling. Let's go to another one here, column. There's might be things where you want this display like this when it's large. When it gets to a medium size, it just transforms and orients or changes the where these components are. Or if it goes to even smaller view, it could be one vertical view that we can scroll through very, very easily. Another good example is this breakpoint, where I have a table at a large size. If I go down on a phone, instead of getting a table, I get the cards. So it's just so many flexible ways that we can leverage these layouts in Perspective to be able to get, build first class, really applications the way we want, and have it one project for no matter where we want to get access. Now, I mentioned theming before. Theming is really cool. So right now I'm using the light theme. I can switch it to a dark theme. And you can see that everything automatically switches to that theme. From the menu, all these screens, right? Everything automatically switches to that theme. And you can build custom themes that you want to bring into the table there very, very easily. So we can easily switch between those themes. Not only that, but you can build applications and have interaction. You can have forms. You can not just display data. It's a real application you're building, and that's important. And Perspective wasn't just like, let's just display some data. Let's do a lot more with it. So I can do things like have buttons where you can have events that are happening. You can open pop-ups and move pop-ups around. You can have events like mouse enter, mouse leave. You can browse to files and drag and import stuff in the system. And really use that along with the native apps that I was talking about before. And so I do want to show this native app here real quick. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mirror my phone for a second. So here, oops. Sorry, let me get this up. So here's my phone. And if you're on a native a mobile device, you have a native app for Perspective, we can get in there and leverage these the phone for all those sensors I was talking about. So let me go into the Perspective demo here. And if I go over to the mobile screen here, where I can leverage the phone, so you can see there's enable GPS. Enable that on, turn on, you can see there's my GPS coordinates. And I can use that now. As I move around, those would actually change. Now I'm stationary, so they're not going to change here. But maybe I want to scan a barcode. So if I look at, here's a barcode that I can scan, and it says, hey, hello everybody, that's what the barcode was. I can use that very easily. I can turn on the accelerometer, and you can see that changing the X, Y, and Z from the accelerometer. We can use NFC, we can upload files, we can use do all QR codes. We can really leverage these devices for a lot more there. So hopefully this gives you a good sense of some of the power of what Perspective can bring to the table. The last thing I want to point out real quick with this is sometimes you want people to build an application that's all somebody gets. Sometimes you want users to be in control of an application. They want to build what they want to build, or they want to kind of build their own dashboards. And let me show you this here. I'm going to go to an application where you're going to see logging in. So I have to log in through the federated identity to verify that I am somebody who, before I can actually add something. I can go in here, I can add a dashboard. And this is a project that we have available. Anybody could take advantage of. Let's say that I wanted to add a gauge here. I'll make it a little smaller. And I can go in here and say, I want the gauge to look at a particular tag in the system. So let's go and look at HMI, and I'll look at the day tank. So there's the value for the gauge. Oops. Oh. Let's try this one more time. Okay, so that's not working. I don't know why it's not working there, but we're going to continue on. Let's say I want to put weather here. The point of this is to make it very, very easy for people to build dashboards out there and show information. It's a great project you start from with the perspective, and it gives the users control of what they want to do. So not only can we just display data, but we can have real interaction. We can let them really be in control and build any kind of application that they want. Perspective gives so much possibility with what we can do with perspective. Hopefully the demo gave you that. So with that concludes my presentation here about the power of perspective. I do encourage all of you to go website, download the product, play around with it, see what perspective can do for you. And we all can change the future here, you know, by leveraging the technology that exists right now. So let's envision a more innovative future today, and let's see the amazing things that you guys can build.